All right.
Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining in today for our publishing info session. I'll just give it a couple of seconds for people to join in. See everyone's trickling in. Wherever you are, hopefully you're having a good day so far. Here in Toronto, it's really nice outside. So I do plan to go and take a walk after. My name is Mushar Chaudhry, and I'm the manager of sales and recruitment for the Chang School. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the land upon which Toronto Metropolitan University is built. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. I want to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for the nature and people who lived on the land where TMU is located today. At the university, we've made a deep and long-lasting commitment to truth and reconciliation. I invite you to learn more about this work online. Now, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's session. Your microphone is muted throughout the event so as not to disturb other attendees or the presenters. For the hearing impaired, we have automated captioning available, which you can access by activating it in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions by typing your questions into the question box of the control panel. Now, you may send in your questions anytime during the session. We'll be answering them towards the end of the presentation portion. And now I'd like to introduce our guest speakers for today. First, we've got Kelvin Kong, Academic Coordinator of the certificate here at the Chang School. One of our students of the certificate, Julia Harmsworth, and Lee Nash, Publisher at Assembly Press, and a program advisory lead and the instructor of one of the courses, the intensive version at the Chang School. I'll now invite Kelvin to provide a brief overview of the certificate and how it can help you develop your skills. Welcome, Kelvin.
Great. Thanks, Mashur. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelvin. As Mashur said, I'm the AC at for the Publishing Certificate Program at the Chang School. I also teach here, and I work as a literary agent over at K2 Literary. So anyway, let's get into this. About our program, we are entering the 36th year of the program. It started in spring 1989. There's been, we've developed the program quite a bit as the years went on, and right now our main method of delivery is online. So anybody taking the program will be doing this asynchronously. That is to say, you don't have to be present at any time or at a specific time or date during the week to do the courses. Each class for the week takes place during the whole week, and you can engage with the material at your own pace so that it's as flexible as possible for anybody who has other priorities such as full-time jobs or family care. We have 26 courses in the program that span the range of editorial courses to marketing, design, production, rights, business. And these are broken down into 14 full credit courses and 12 half credit courses. What else can I say? Our program, like I said, has been around for a while. We've had some very notable students, including Nicole Winstanley, who is the head of Simon & Schuster Canada now, and Amanda Betts, who is the editor who acquired 2024's Scotiabank Giller Prize winner. So yeah, we have over 30 active instructors, and yeah, sorry. So the certificate requirements is that, and I'll be getting more of this later, but in a nutshell, it's 8 full credits being the equivalent of 39-hour courses. In those 8 credits, there are 2 that are required. These are 2 overview courses for trade and educational publishing, and 6 further electives that you could take to in pursuit of whatever branch of interest publishing that you're interested in. Students enrolled in the program have a span of 5 years to complete it. Each year there are 3 terms. Our courses run every term. Not all our all our courses do not run every term, but we do have courses that run every term, if that makes sense. You're always welcome to contact me. Our contact information will be at the end, if you're interested in taking a particular course during any specific term. The cost of the program spans around $7,400 to $8,200. It depends on the combination of full and half credits that you take. There is also an editorial intensive that we are introducing this May. That will be $3,605.89. I'll be talking about that in probably 2 slides. Next slide. Great. So as I said, certificate requirements, you need 8 full credits to graduate. And as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 required full credit courses, which are the overview courses, and 6 elective courses. In the 6 full credits, you can take any combination of full and half credits. And by full credits, we mean 13-week courses that are also equivalent to 39 hours of in-class time, or half credits, which are 7 weeks or equivalent to 19 and a half hours of in-class time. You need a cumulative grade point average of 1.67. You need to maintain that to be able to graduate. Next slide. And as I was mentioning before, the editorial intensive, this is something that we are introducing this spring. It's you can take 4 full credits in editorial courses and a trade overview, and between May to July, and by the end of the summer, you'll have half the required credits and done. So when the fall term starts in September or later, you can take anything else to either complement those editorial courses that we have, or maybe pursue other courses in the program that will round out your education, depending on where you want to go. So the 4 courses that we have are, I'm sorry, 1 second, I'm just moving the videotape window away. We have CDPB 100, which is the trade publishing overview. You learn about generally how trade publishing works. And by trade publishing, I mean, stuff you see in the bookstores as opposed to, textbooks. It's a good overview of the industry as a whole. And once you finish it, you'll get a very good big picture sense of the different roles in publishing, how a book gets published, how the sausage gets made. The next course in that program, CDPB 100, it'll be in the publishing intensive. It'll take place for about 2 weeks. And then the next course is CDPB 312, practical grammar and punctuation. This is where you'll start getting into the editorial bits of the program. You'll start learning, about what, how grammar works, punctuation and usage. And that foundation you get will lead after 2 weeks as well into CDPB 102, which is copy and stylistic editing 1. That course teaches you how to copy edit a course. So, how to make things consistent, fact check, cite things. Copy editing course. This copy editing course is our core editing course. And once you finish it, the rest of all the other editing courses in the program do open up to you because it is a prerequisite for a number of them. And once you're done that, which takes place for 3 weeks, your final course is substantive editing, which is also 3 weeks. And this course is going to be where you learn about, what most people think happens when you edit, for example, a book. You look at the story, you look at the characters, how you want to, what needs to be changed, how to change them, and so on and so forth. So once you have those 4 courses, you'll have a very good base to begin, your journey in the editorial track for publishing. And as I mentioned earlier, with the remaining 4 credits in the program, you can take further courses to complement those editorial skills, such as indexing and proofreading and other copy and stylistic editing. Or you may want to go into, what I do, like, you know, literary rights management. You learn how to edit a book or acquire a book, and then you learn to be an agent and sell books to publishers. Or you go into you know, things like marketing and book production and whatnot. I'll get into more of that later. I don't know how many of you are here for the editorial intensive, but you know, when you do finalize and sign up, I do want to you know, take the moment to remind you to enroll in the publishing certificate that is registered to complete the certificate, so that before the term starts, so that the 4 courses you take will go towards your CGPA. All right. And now I'd like to introduce Lee Nash, who is the publisher of Assembly Press. She will also be the instructor for CDPB 100 trade publishing, and she'll be talking about her publishing journey and what you can expect to learn in trade overview. Lee, take it away.
Oh, so I'm Lee Nash, and Calvin already gave my current job. I'm publisher of Assembly Press, which is I keep saying it's Canada's newest literary publisher, and I'm going to keep saying that until I get corrected. Um, and prior to that, I worked as publisher at House of Anansi. I was the publisher at Invisible Publishing, and I've worked for Coach House Books in the past and done sort of freelance work for numerous other small presses over the years. I first got into editing. Fun fact, I started an editorial services company that is still running, which is pretty fun. Uh, and I'm a writer myself too. I'm a poet. So my publishing journey has, I've worn many hats during it. And I truly wish I'd known about this program when I first got into publishing. It would have saved me so many headaches and given me many shortcuts. And I'm saying that because I mean it. I think I'm here because the trade publishing course is the first one you'll take as part of the editorial intensive, which is good because it lays the groundwork you'll need to move forward, I think, to understand all how the editing you're learning in the other courses intersects with the publishing journey of a book on the like as a whole. So a little bit about this course, and honestly, this is my favorite thing to talk about. I could talk about trade publishing forever. I won't though, don't worry. There's so much. This is why I love publishing. We'll cover historical contexts, all the players, so publishers, authors, agents, distributors, um, wholesalers, bookstores, Amazon, Indigo, the processes, acquiring books, what to look for, editing them, watching a book kind of move through the whole life cycle, production, marketing and sales, what it's like to build a list of titles, the importance of backlist. I just want to introduce you to all the jargon now, just for fun, so you'll sound like you know what you're talking about. And we'll talk to you about the challenges and opportunities facing publishers today too. So the goal is to give you sort of a robust base knowledge of the industry, and to help you prepare for a career in publishing, which I have to say has been very rewarding. I love it because there's so much to do. Like there's a huge variety of roles. It's an industry from everyone, from creative thinkers, writers to data analysts. I've worked in publishing for over a decade and I've never been bored. How many jobs can you say that about? And I've done just about every job there is to do, from inventory management to packing boxes to staffing event tables, editing, social media, marketing, bookkeeping, typesetting. The one thing I've never done is cover design because I think it's important to know your limits. And this program will teach you that too. So we'll look at, you know, sort of the trade book industry in Canada, as Calvin mentioned. Those are the books in the bookstores. One of the cool things about publishing is that it's a mix of art and commerce. And I think that's what sets it apart from a lot of other industries. And honestly, that's what makes it interesting. You're taking somebody's creative idea and sharing it with other people. It's like a really intimate thing to do. I love it. So we'll talk about trade publishing houses in Canada, from national to really regional ones. The roles from multinationals like Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, to micro presses, which really do play an important role. in the literary ecosystem. It's where a lot of writers get their first publications, and it really is like a huge organic pipeline, publishing. We'll look at the marketplace, including where books are sold, both physically and digitally, the symbiotic relationship between book publishing and book selling, and again, the challenges and opportunities faced by both sides of the business today. But most importantly, and I think the most fun, is we'll track the life cycle of a book through all the stages, all the departments, just to really give you a good understanding of what all those jobs look like, what you'll be doing after you learn in this program. And I can promise we'll have some fun doing it too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lee. I guess it's back to Kelvin to finish off the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mishra. Thank you, Lee. I just wanted to say a few more things about this editorial intensive program. As I mentioned, the delivery will be primarily asynchronous. There will be some in-person components where you will either come to campus or have a virtual session with your instructor. Please check the editorial intensive webpage, which we will be sharing a link fairly soon, maybe, yes. For more details and the schedule about, what takes place when. You'll also find information about the the individual courses, the costs, and how to register. Great. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little talk about the industry trends and how we've responded to them. This program is primarily professional training. Our aim is to prepare people to work in publishing and to respond to the trends of market trends and what the industry needs. So recently we developed CDPB 280, which is audio publishing and production. There is a massive rise in audiobook popularity over the past 3 years, and it's only growing as people find less and less time to read and more time to drive, amongst other things. So that course teaches about how audiobooks are made, how they're produced, how talent is hired, and whatnot. We also developed CDPB 825, Accessible Publishing and Production, and this is really a course both for editors and for people who are looking to go into book production. And by book production, I mean making the actual book, whether it be an ebook or a print book. It is geared towards how to incorporate accessibility into the publishing workflow so that you're not treating it as a last minute side thing, because accessibility is becoming more and more, I hate to use the word mainstream, but something that people are, everyone in publishing is paying more attention to, especially given that there are, accessibility laws like the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act is set to become into mandatory law, if not already. And we have CDPB 803, Digital Publishing and Production. It provides hands-on training for digital publishing, how to make an ebook, how to deal with ebooks. This is a course that we developed a number of years ago when ebooks were starting to become a regular thing in publishing. Even up to 15 years ago, they weren't. Most people read print, and then, around the start in the middle of the 2010s, ebooks became more and more prevalent. And instead of, sending it out for someone else to do, publishers started doing it themselves. And it's pretty much considered a normal part of, a regular part of the publishing process now. So we developed a course to have, to teach our students how to actually be part of that process. Great, next trend, please. Or next slide, please. Okay, so this is a breakdown of book publishing in Canada, like, the jobs and whatnot. Primarily, most of the jobs are in trade. As I mentioned, those are books basically that are not academic books. So I am, not talking about monographs, not textbooks. These are books that the general public buys. So, anything that you see in the bookstore. So for example, in this pie chart, you see children and youth and adult consumer. That would comprise trade publishing. Trade publishing does rule Canada. There is still a educational publishing. So again, textbooks, scholarly journals, academic publishing. That is still, there are still a number of jobs in Canada, but it is no longer as prevalent as it was, say, 10 years ago as a result of different mergers and closures that have happened. Again, that is not to say that educational publishing is dead in Canada. It's still around. It's just not as dominant as trade publishing. And then there are ebooks, and I frankly don't know how this falls into the category, but assume that, this falls within both educational and trade realms, because almost everyone does ebooks. As I said, it's a normal format now that, like prints. And when I say prints, I mean like hardcovers and paperbacks. So if you can imagine now, now when you go to the bookstore, you'll see hardcover books, and then later on you'll see paperbacks. A long time ago, it was only hardcover. Paperbacks were a separate format that publishers used to get really worried about because they were worried it would cannibalize sales. And then after a while, they started, going, oh, you know what? If we did vertical publishing where we published both, we would sell both instead of having someone else sell it. So it's become, a regular part of the publishing format. And now same thing with ebooks and also audiobooks. Okay, next slide. Okay, so in our program, as I mentioned, this is a professional training program, so you will learn a number, you have the opportunity to learn a number of skill-based training in various aspects of publishing. For example, editing, our program started as an editorial program, and that's what it's known for. So we have a number of editing courses, and we do have more specific editing courses for specialties. So, while we have things like the practical grammar and punctuation, the copy editing, and the substantive editing, we also have things like how to edit children's books, or, editing fiction, or, how to do indexing or proofreading or editing cookbooks and recipes. We also have a number of courses in children's publishing because it's quite different from adult publishing in the ways that books are acquired and marketed. So we have courses for those. We have courses in sales, publicity, and marketing. Specifically, we have a course in sales and marketing and a course in publicity for those of you who may want to, go into what we call SMP in publishing. We have, for those who want to, go into design and production, we have courses for those. So if you want to work on, actually making the book as opposed to pitching the booksellers, or acquiring, proofreading, then that's for you. We have, as I mentioned earlier, courses on digital publishing, accessibility, and audiobooks, and those are for, in response to current market trends. We have the business of book publishing, which is very important because, as Lee said, publishing is a mix of art and commerce, and it's not always wine and cheese parties and hanging out with authors. Sometimes it's about, applying for grants and going through fun spreadsheets, which we call P&Ls, or profit and loss statements, to determine whether that book you really want to publish is actually going to make money or not. We have a course on literary rights management, which is which is my specialty. You'll learn how to acquire talents. You'll learn how to read a contract. You'll learn how to explore and sell intellectual property to publishers in North America and, the world abroad. And we have courses in indexing and proofreading, which also, as I mentioned, are, specialties in editing that we have before. Oh, sorry, we're running late. Next slide, please. Career path options. Once you finish the program, you can go into the publishing industry to work in trade and educational and reference publishing. You can work in literary magazine, academic journal publishing, and also you can work in communications and nonprofit and corporate publishing. And by corporate publishing, I mean working in banks to edit annual reports. I guess what we're getting at here is that the skills you learn in this program are transferable. So, it's not just limited to book publishing. The roles that you can explore after taking a program, you can see you can work in the business side of publishing, you can work as an editor, you can work in sales, marketing, publicity, production design, and rights management. So our program does offer the opportunity to explore any aspect of publishing that you're interested in. Next slide. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Our contact information is below. Mashwar will take over now. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Kelvin, and thank you, Lee, for being part of our intensive and also sharing such amazing insight. Now, before we invite our next speaker, we'll just do a quick poll. We'll put it up for a minute, and we hope that you all can attend. We just want to take a look at what matters most to people. What do you think is the most important skill for success in the publishing industry? We've got editing and proofreading as the first one, sales, marketing, and publicity, second one, digital and online publishing skills as option number 3, and we've got production and design expertise, which is option number 4. So we're at 30 seconds. We'll keep it up for another 30 seconds. We've got about 50%, or it's going up now. Yeah, 60% of people chiming in. So thank you for that. Great. So it looks like sales, marketing, and publicity is the top one, and followed by editing and proofreading and digital online publishing. And then lastly, production and design expertise. So I just want to say these are all skills that you'll be learning in our certificate. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. It's Julia Harmsworth, who is a student of the certificate and also a managing editorial coordinator at HarperCollins Publishers. Welcome, Julia.
Hello everyone. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for coming. I'm excited to chat really quickly. My name is Julia. My little story of how I got into the program is that I graduated from my undergraduate degree in English at Queen's just a couple years ago, so in spring of 2023. I knew I wanted to get into publishing. I've kind of known that since I was young, like always been into books. I knew that was what I wanted to do. I was applying to like a million jobs and I was getting nowhere and feeling very frustrated, as I'm sure some of you guys have experienced. And so I decided to LinkedIn stalk people whose jobs I wanted to have. So I looked at the people and I was like, how did they get to where they are? What do they have on their resume? And I realized that like a lot of people had the TMU publishing certificate on there. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to do this. I didn't know that. So I did some research into the program and I was like, oh, this sounds really cool and useful. I'm gonna do it. So I like signed up pretty quickly. And I found that after I like started doing the program and had that on my resume, I started getting job interviews like pretty much immediately, which kind of blew my mind. So I started the program in September 2023, and then I started working at Harlequin and HarperCollins in January 2024. So I worked starting last year. I was the managing editorial intern, so I was an intern for about a year, and then about a month before my internship was up, they offered me a permanent position, which I'm doing now. So I just started 2 months ago at the beginning of January, but I'm the managing editorial coordinator now. So I work in managing editorial, which is a project management admin service-based kind of department that sits in the middle. We work mostly with editorial, but also a lot with production to make sure everything is on schedule pretty much. Like we track every element of every book from like the back cover copy to the cover briefing to the actual manuscript, all these elements, and we make sure that editorial hits their deadline. So I'm responsible for some of Harlequin series lines. I run bi-weekly meetings to make sure editorial's on track, and I'm kind of their point of contact for if anything goes wrong. I like troubleshoot if we're running behind or like something blows up, which is fun. And yeah, like going back to the program, I really enjoyed it. I wrapped it up this past December. And I was able to work in it while I was doing my internship, which was really great. I found that it's funny that Lee was talking about jargon, because I found that one of the most useful things about the program was that I learned the jargon, which made like my learning curve when I started at Harper a lot smoother. And like I knew kind of knew like what people were talking about, which just made it a lot quicker and easier for me to like get into it. And I also really like that I was able to learn about all the different departments that obviously haven't worked in, and I otherwise wouldn't know what they do. So like I look around at people, I'm at my office right now. I look around and I know pretty much like what everybody does on like a top level, which I really like. And otherwise I like would have no idea. So yeah, that is my story. I'm happy to answer any questions about my experience in the program or anything, and anyone here can reach out to me. I'm happy to chat.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Julia. I love the thing you mentioned about LinkedIn, because I remember when I was looking for a job, I used to do the same thing, like find someone, then like, okay, that's what I want, and you know,
Yeah.
their journey and what they did.
Mhm.
The jargon always helps wherever you are, right? Even if you go for like a conference, and you know, it's just like a publishing conference, and you know the terminology and then what everybody's talking about, it's easier to communicate, network, and take that step further. So thank you so much for sharing that insight. Now that is the end of our presentation portion. I'd now invite everyone to put in your questions in the question box so that our amazing speakers and presenters can answer that. We've already got a few open questions here. The first one is, how does this certificate help student break into the publishing industry with no prior experience? Maybe Kelvin, you can start with that.
Yep. Excuse me. As I mentioned, this is a professional training certificate, so it will prepare you to, for the job, to work on the job. I I was in this program in 2004, 2005. I had no prior publishing experience. All I had was an English degree, a failed attempt at grad school, and retail experience in fancy kitchenware. And look at me now, an actual publishing professional. This is probably I've been in the industry over 20 years. So the program does assume that you have no experience. So once you come out of it, you will have, as much experience as you can as a certificate student.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Next question is, how would you describe the work environment as a publisher? So I guess maybe Lee, you can start with that, and I don't know if Julia, you want to add something to that after.
Sure, we're actually a good pair because I think we have different experience, because most of my experience is in independent publishing, where you're wearing about 20 different hats no matter what your role is, um, which I like. Again, never bored, never going to be bored. Um, it's often fast paced, I would say. Like there's always something to do. There's always something that needs doing. There's lots of reading to do. If you're a fast reader, you have an advantage. There's never enough time to read, though. Slight disadvantage. Yeah, I think mostly it's all hands on deck, kind of. You'll be pulled into different projects and pulled in different places. There's sometimes travel, which is fun depending on the job. So you get out of the office. But I would say every day is different in most publishing jobs, which is great if you like variety.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, reading fast is a very important skill, and I'm sure that helps. Anything else anyone want to add to that? If not, we'll move on to the next question.
I can add a little bit to that. Yeah, I guess I've also had an interesting experience because I just started out of publishing also in the post-COVID world, which I understand is different than it once was. So if also you guys are curious about work environment in that sense of the word, where I'm at HarperCollins, it's like we do like a hybrid situation. Most people are here 2 days a week and they work the rest from home, and we do a lot of like I have a lot of meetings on Teams, like just from a logistical standpoint, if you're interested in that. But yeah, but everybody is so nice and lovely, and it's lovely to come in and see people in real life. And yeah, also from like the big publisher perspective, um, it's true that like we're very separated into different departments, and like everybody is very specialized, and they kind of like do their thing. But also what I like about managing editorial is that we do wear a lot of hats, which is great for me because I get bored really easily. And there's always like something new to do, something new to learn. And we have our hands in a bunch of different stuff, which is fun.
Thanks for adding that. No, that was great. Okay, next question is, I guess it's a real hot topic these days. How is artificial intelligence impacting the publishing world today?
You want me to take this one?
Yes, go ahead.
The hot seat. I don't know, stay tuned. I think we're all in the process of finding out. I think I would love to see AI, and this is something I advocate for. I would love to see AI do more data related stuff. And that's what I'm using it for, so that people can do more creative things. I would like it to make for better internships. That's my goal. I think lots of people are trying to figure out ways to use it in publishing to to really help with some of the data entry work and like searching for retailers and all these kinds of things like keywords. I'm just going to throw words out at you. You don't know what they mean, but you will one day, and you'll think back to this and go, oh, that's what a keyword is. It's being written into contracts now that we can't use AI tools as publishers. Agents are really pushing for that. I think it's a good thing. I think people are still going to want to read books written by people because they're going to be better. I think that's just a fact. Maybe I'll be proven wrong one day, but I don't think we should be letting AI, and I know my peers believe this too. I don't think we should be letting AI make the art. We should get to keep making the art. So there's lots of really interesting projects in the works right now. I think publishing is not necessarily afraid of it, but it remains to be seen how it's all going to play out.
It's ever evolving. So like you said, it's very interesting what we see as a development that happens every day. So yeah, we'll stay tuned. Next question, and this is maybe for Kelvin. I know you're typing it. Maybe it'll be good for people to hear that as well. Are internships available outside of Toronto and the city we live in?
You know what? It depends on the internships that internship postings that we receive. But yes, there are internships outside of Toronto. The issue is that most publishing organizations happen to be either in Toronto or in Vancouver. But there are pockets of publishing all over the major cities in Canada. We're a professional certificate program, and we're part-time, so we don't require an internship for graduation. As such, we don't arrange for internships with our students, but when we hear about opportunities, we do share them, and there are opportunities outside. I've seen them. I just hope people send them to me.
I would add also, just to jump in here, in my experience trying desperately to find an internship, there aren't that many outside of Toronto, but most of the ones in Toronto don't make you come into Toronto. Like the internship I did the past year, it was completely remote. I didn't have to live here. I happened to live in the Toronto area, but it wasn't a requirement for the job. So yeah, that's good too.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. That is true. A lot of the internships do offer, remote, either part-time or full-time. Just look at the internship and maybe get in touch with the publisher if you really, really want the internship, and maybe work something out, because it is a possibility that they change the position from being on site to remote.
I know somebody mentioned that they're having some trouble hearing us. I hope it's clear now. I can hear everything clearly, so I'm hoping it should be better for someone who's not able to hear properly.
That's not the question. I'm really sorry you can't hear us. If you have any other questions, if you have any specific questions, please do contact us, either me or Mashwar. Our contact information is in the slides.
Yeah, and additionally, we will be sending over a recording of this session so that you
Yeah.
have that as well.
Mhm.
We do truly apologize for that. Next question is, are sales determined by Canadian sales only or mostly? The question is from Tamara. Thank you for your question.
I'm gonna let Lee take that one.
I'm assuming you mean book sales. Uh, it really depends on the publisher. It's a publisher specific question. We buy North American rights we buy world rights where we can, but we also buy North American rights. So we're often selling books into the US, and at Assembly, our sales are pretty much split between Canadian and US sales. And I would say that's probably true for most Canadian independent publishers that are selling into the US as well.
And I want to add to that, in terms of sales in this program, you will learn at some point, probably in the trade overview course, that by sales, there are two kinds of sales that we talk about. There are what Lee is talking about. These are print sales, so print selling the actual books. But there's also the sales of intellectual property. So, if you want to, sell, if someone in Germany is interested in turning your book into a translation, then that would be a rights sale, which you will also learn about in this program, in my course. To shamelessly plug my own course for when you get to that, when you get that
Subtle.
far in the program. I know, right?
That was a
Um,
very smooth plug, Kelvin. So good job there. Anything else anyone wanted to add to that before we move to the next question? Okay. Someone just wants to clarify, the editorial intensive program is mostly online with partial in person because they don't live in the GTA. So wondering if they're still able to enroll in the intensive or the normal publishing certificate.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Okay, so first off, the regular courses in the publishing certificates, so the non-intensive courses are all asynchronous. You do not need to be on campus. You can all take, the course from your home. It's asynchronous. You don't have to be on camera unless it's optional, because some of our instructors may say, hey, let's have a meet and greet. No, yeah, those courses you can do all, from your computer. For the intensive courses, as you asked, most of the learning will be done online during the week. There will be a couple of classes where you are expected to come into campus, meet your instructor, meet your classmates, really get that bond, get that bond going, because one thing in publishing is that networking is very, very, very important. There will be there are other sessions in the same program where it's live. So instead of coming to campus, it's virtual. So yes, there will be aspects of live. There will be live aspects to the publishing editorial intensive. They are always on weekends. Check the editorial intensive website for the schedule of which courses have which live sessions and what dates.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing and clarifying that for everyone. At this time, we don't have any more open questions. Are there any last thoughts, comments, or remarks that anybody would like to say? Yeah. Okay, if not, we'll do one last poll. We just want to gather some feedback on how we did. It's basically just asking you all if we were able to answer all of your questions. It's good for us to, continuously improve, because that's what we strive towards.
I'm trying to spam the yes button, but it doesn't let me take part, because obviously I would just, bias the answers. But yeah, I hope we did answer all your questions. If we didn't, or if you have any other questions, we're always happy to hear from you. So either email Mashwar or myself. You'll see, at the end of the slides, earlier in the presentation, our email addresses are both there.
Yep. Yeah, if we can put up that last slide, Luke, for everybody to see. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for everybody attending our session today, and thank you to our speakers, and our presenters, Kelvin, Lee, and Julia. Thanks for sharing your insights. And if you're interested in learning more or enrolling in courses related to the publishing certificate, you can visit continuing.torontomu.ca. And if you have any other questions, you can email me directly at mash.chaudhry@torontomu.ca or reach out to the publishing contact there. You will receive a follow-up email with this presentation and the recording of this session and a survey within the next 24 to 48 hours. And so on behalf of the Chang School and our presenters, thank you so much and have a great rest of the day.